Hey up, my name is Andi Jarvis and welcome to the Strategy Sessions. This is episode 12 and the episode is called Black Friday. It's coming into the golden quarter, the peak time for retailers, both physical retailers and online retailers. We've got the biggest e-commerce events in the world happening in the next couple of days, in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about all of that today. I am joined by an e-commerce legend today, Luke Carthy. Luke, who are you and why are you on my show today?
All right, mate. So who am I? So yeah, e-commerce consultant. I do bits online, help clients, that sort of stuff. Why am I here? I guess I'm a perfect keyword match for Black Friday. So why not? Also, it makes perfect sense, right? It just makes perfect sense. So e-commerce, as soon as you ping me a note to say, let's do this, I was like, absolutely all over it. But yeah, e-commerce is my thing. And I can't wait to see what unfolds, to be honest. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas ads, the whole thing, the whole shebang, lockdown mixed in just to add extra drama. It's going to be fun.
Going to be great to see. So, Luke, those of you who are regular listeners will know, is the first person ever to come back onto the show twice. So Luke did a TOPTIP a couple of weeks ago on the episode about e-com. It got some great traction. Some people got in touch asking about it. And we thought, you know what, it's coming up to that time. We'll bring Luke back on. Just before we get into talking about e-commerce, I want to let Luke give a plug for his new business as well. Luke, as you can see, if you're watching the video, has a little bit more hair than I do, and it's a beauty of an afro coming on. I used to have one of those, not quite as tight as that, but I used to have one of them. And Luke spotted a gap in the market. Luke, tell us about your new business.
Yeah, so I've recently launched an e-commerce business, surprisingly, called Afro Drops. And it's basically, first and foremost, a brand that is designed to stand, empower, celebrate everything about natural and Afro hair. And the idea is it's like leveling the playing field in beauty standards, right? Your hair doesn't have to be straight to be gorgeous. It helps with information and accessibility and just, yeah, really kind of making a song and dance about what natural hair really means. So we don't believe in things like relaxers. We're all for wigs and we're all for, like, you know, silk presses and all that sort of stuff, but anything that chemically alters and permanently damages your hair is something that we're strongly against. But yeah, it's a space that I saw needs a lot of TLC, and there's plenty of really cool, powerful brands that are making waves in this space. Treasure Tress is one, so shout out to those guys. But there doesn't seem to be anyone that's really gelling together a really powerful content platform like, say, Naturally Curly, and a really well sorted e-commerce platform or e-commerce experience, people to go and buy their stuff from. So yeah, I thought I'd put my toe in the water and give it a blast, and we're introducing Afro Drops. It's been live, unsure when this episode goes out, but it launched, when did it launch? I should know this, it was like a week ago. So still very, very early days, still really exciting, lots of grassroots stuff going on, but yeah.
Great fun stuff. Well, look, and thus ends the advert, but do check out Afro Drops. If you have Afro hair, if you know anyone who has Afro hair, please do share it far and wide, because it is a really underrepresented segment in the market. So please do. Right, let's get into it then. So look, e-commerce is, if you read the newspapers, right, or well, no one reads newspapers anymore, but if you scroll through the newspaper websites these days, you see it written about as if it's this brand new thing that has just appeared at the beginning of COVID to save the world and people, you know, and it's utter shit, right? So what have you seen over the last few years that's changed in e-commerce that has kind of made it more mainstream?
You know what? At a technical level, not a fat lot, but e-commerce is still e-commerce. You know, you go onto a website, you click some stuff, you buy some stuff, it gets delivered. But what I would say is the big thing that's changed in the last few years is the barrier to entry has fallen dramatically, right? So I guess if you think pre-Shopify, if you like, which wasn't that long ago, to get on e-commerce, you had to go and, you know, get some eye-watering quotes off a bunch of web companies and spend probably tens of thousands of pounds to get online. And of course,
you needed a great Magento implementation, didn't you?
Yeah.
Which was like, it was great if you had a product list of 80,000 products, but you're like, no, I've got these 10 things I want to sell. Yeah, well, that's £25,000.
Exactly. It was off the wall. Now, I guess now anyone, you know, whether you're 12 kind of selling jewelry or kind of, you know, a big entrepreneurial business like Heinz, for example, who have recently jumped on the Shopify bandwagon. It's so easy now. You know, you can have a really good, really slick looking e-commerce site with next to no effort whatsoever. So I'd say that's one really big change. And Shopify is constantly evolving. I think on top of that, it comes out the other side. So distribution and that kind of expectation of I want it now. You know, I don't think you can ever talk about e-commerce without talking about Amazon. And I know the elephant in the room, the antichrist of e-commerce, if you like, but they're huge. They set the standard. They get stuff to you within literally 12 hours of you placing an order if you're a Prime customer. And that level of expectation is, of course, resonating across the e-commerce industry, and everybody wants it now. Everybody wants high street timelines, but on an e-commerce experience. And Argos is another company that have really embraced that, and they offer same-day delivery. So yeah, they're the kind of two things I think are really kind of expanding out. It's right at the beginning, how do I launch? And then right at the end, how do I get stuff to customers as quickly and as nicely as possible?
Great stuff. So if you are listening in and you are an e-commerce business, right, Luke is going to give us some top tips, A, so I can sing the theme tune, and B, because I know that's what you love. But as we get just a little bit further into the episode, we're going to get some real killer tips from him about how to turbocharge your online business. But before we get there, we'll talk about Amazon, right? Because you can't talk about it, as you said, you can't talk about e-com without talking about Amazon. Yeah. I'm going to put in the show notes a link to a blog. It is a long read. It's probably a 20-25 minute read by a guy called Eugene Wee, who was one of the architects of Amazon's Prime. He's quite clear. He's like, he didn't invent it, but he was one of the early people involved in it. And this is a long paper, a blog really, but about how that decision came and the thought process behind it and the data they looked at. And it is stunning. I think it's called Invisible Asset. I can't remember, Invisible something or other, right? But it's in the links to the show notes. It is worth reading. It's a stunning piece of work on understanding your customers and giving them what they want. So you can see Prime's reset the bar for people. You don't want to pay for delivery, but you'll pay every month to get free delivery. And you see some of the studies coming out from eBay where the product that will sell for £10, including free postage, will sell more often than the product for £6 plus £3 postage, because people just don't want to pay postage. So Amazon have reset the bar on what people want to do in delivery, for example. What other areas are they moving how the e-commerce industry works that's forcing smaller retailers to keep up? And can they keep up?
Yeah, so they're a behemoth, right? So a couple of things that really resonate with me from what you said is that connotation of not wanting to pay for delivery. It's that horrible, you're spending 300 quid on something, but all of a sudden £3 is enough of a decision to make you think, forget it, I'm going somewhere else. Or even drive 15 miles in your car and burn more than £3 of fuel just to go and get it. Like the mindset is unreal. But yeah, when I started in e-commerce at the tender age of 16 on eBay, then yeah, we did loads of, I did loads of tests on exactly what you said. £10 free delivery, £7 and £3 for delivery, and the conversion was off the scale in terms of difference. But I think what Amazon are doing is they're just building a universe that you don't ever need to leave. So you ever seen the film WALL-E or WALL-E, depending on which parts of the world you live in? And everywhere you go, you've got that by and large brand, right? And everything that pops up is B&L, by and large. That is literally Amazon of the world of WALL-E. They are just in everything. And they are the locusts of technology. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. They've built an ecosystem. They've built a way in which you can buy something without ever having to leave the platform. You don't even need to get your credit card out. And the fact that you've bought into Prime at £79 a year or whatever it is, $7.99 a month, you're handing over money to be part of that exclusive club. Plus the amount of products, right? Like it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction now to think about buying something and then firing up the Amazon app or searching on Google and it's like, result 3 or 4 on the page. It's painful.
From a retailer's perspective then, should you just, you mentioned Shopify before and things like that, should you just go, stuff this, I'll just sell on Amazon?
Do you know what? The answer to this question is yes and no. I know, horrible, on the fence, it depends, I know. But my opinion is actually be multi-channel. So if there's a saying that, a famous saying, if you can't beat them, join them. And I do believe that as part of your sales mix, you should absolutely be selling on third-party platforms like Etsy, if you're in the creative space, like Amazon, like eBay. and even a relatively new marketplace called OnBuy, which is you go and check out, which is like a new baby version of eBay and Amazon. Really cool, and it's a UK specific platform, or built and made in the UK. But the point is, what you ideally want to do is maybe find an audience on Amazon that wouldn't have found you otherwise, and then get them over to your platform. So, get them to buy into the brand, get them to build trust and authority in what it is you do, and then of course transition to your own sales platforms. Because as we know, as sellers, commissions on Amazon are eye-wateringly high. 30% is not unreasonable, and for so many businesses, especially fast-moving consumer goods, that kind of margin is just inoperable. It doesn't work.
And you see as well, I've worked with a company, I'll not name them because I haven't asked them if I can name them, but they sold on Amazon, and they were very clear that what Amazon did was, once they'd proved a market, Amazon would go and buy a boatload of that. Even if they were using FBA, fulfilled by Amazon, they'd suddenly find that a product that Amazon never used to sell, once they'd spent 2 years building that market up and selling stuff, all of a sudden Amazon would be selling this product themselves, either the same thing bought from somewhere else or a rip-off of that product. Now, Amazon have flatly denied this time and time again, that they use that selling information to inform their decisions. But I believe there's a case, is it in the US or the EU, where they're having to defend themselves against that sort of allegation. They deny it time and time again. So just before Amazon's legal team come and start shooting me, I'm just telling you the story based on what a client told me. But it is difficult, right? That they want to take that big commission from you. But if you're not on there, then are you going to find your customers? But migrating customers over from a business like Amazon isn't as easy as you'd think, is it?
No, it's not. It's not easy at all, because you've got all the red tape. You've got to play by Amazon's rules. So if you want to try and throw in a leaflet in your FBA fulfillment, hell no, that ain't happening. Like, you can't drop any kind of promotional merchandise and tell people they can get 10% off the next order if they go direct. None of that stuff. So it's not easy at all. But there are ways. There are definitely ways. So one way, of course, is to sell and fulfill yourself.
Hold on. This sounds like it's going to be the first TOPTIP. TOPTIP. Right, go. First top tip.
Okay. So that's the first time I've heard that theme tune, and it's equal parts scary and brilliant. But yeah, so the first tip is to fulfill your own stuff, which is easier said than done, depending on your volume. But if you fulfill your own orders, then Amazon can't really touch you in that sense, because you can put it in your own branded packaging, you can put your promotional material, you can do all sorts of stuff. Additionally to that, if you sell a unique product that is identifiable to you exclusively, then think about just owning those keywords in Google. So if someone comes back to purchase those again, then there's a chance that you can get exposure elsewhere, right, outside of the Amazon world. But equally, as we know, and as people who use Amazon and Amazon Prime know, it's not the most cost-effective option. So everybody knows really that if you're going to buy something from Amazon, you can probably get it for 10-20% cheaper if you went direct to the retailer, or you decided to do your homework and go and have a look. But you're kind of paying for the convenience. So my point here is, if you sell something at £10, sell it at £15 on Amazon, and at least be in a situation where you can cover your margins and still make it worthwhile, but sell it for £10 on your own site. I know that's not always possible if you're competing on a product that's non-unique to you, and there's 15 other sellers and one geezer in China who sells it for 99 pence, and you don't understand how the hell they make that work. But my point here is, try your best to make it work for you. Don't just sell on Amazon for Amazon's sake. It's got to be, it's got to be business viable first before it sells on Amazon.
Yeah. Well, look, we could make this a whole podcast about Amazon, but let's not. Let's move on to selling on your own site and doing your own. And doing your own stuff. So we've both worked with companies that sort of turn over. You've started your own company, and we've worked with companies that turn over fairly significant amounts on e-com platforms, all the way up to some of the biggest companies in the land selling online as well. So what do you see that the bigger companies do really, really well that those sort of mid-sized companies haven't quite caught onto yet when they're selling on their own platform?
Well, it's really interesting, because I actually think it's the opposite way around. I normally find that the underdogs and the smaller, more junior companies, the fresher companies, are the ones that do things really well. And it's the larger companies that are somewhat arrogant and rely on brand. And this is how we've always done it. But equally, you know, I think a lot of things that make big companies work really well is all down to brand and customer loyalty. And I think the things that keep the newer businesses hungry is the fact that they don't have that yet. So they know they need to work 2-3 times as hard to be relevant and to be seen. So I genuinely, you think of Gymshark, perfect example. You've got your companies like Nike, Adidas, you know, other brands are available, all that kind of stuff you have to say. But you know, Gymshark are hungry as heck. They do some stuff that no one's ever done before.
But is one of the things with Gymshark that they have invested in brand. And one of the things that comes up time and time again on this podcast when we talk to lots of people is how some of the old concepts of marketing have been forgotten a little bit. And actually, Gymshark invest a fortune in their brand, whether that's not investing in terms of cash investment all the time. I don't know enough about them to say that, but they have worked very hard to create that brand that they have. So it gives them some credibility. And when I look at smaller retailers, they look at getting the pricing right. They look at getting the delivery right. They look at making sure that their SEO is right and that the PPC is right. You talk to them about brand and they go, oh, it's just that fluffy shit. Yeah. There's a reason why that company charges £25 for a training vest and you're charging 20 for a jumper and a coat and a hoodie and you're putting in a free gift and you're giving away this, that and the other. That's because they invest in the brand. Is that what you see missing at that sort of middle level?
Yeah, 100%. I think you hit the nail on the head, as it were. Definitely. It always goes back to basics, right? It doesn't really matter whether it's SEO, whether it's anything super technical, medicine, or even just bare bones marketing. Like if you don't have a brand, you don't have anything. If you don't know your customers, you don't have a business. If you're not offering a really good service, you don't have, you know, it doesn't matter about price at that point. It's not about a price war. You have to be head and shoulders above. And I know we've moved away from Amazon, but again, that's what they've built, right? They've built a brand, they've built an identity. It's not even about price anymore. You'll buy something at twice the cost just because it's easier, it's more convenient. If you think about the logic, and I use this as an example quite a lot, of going to your local corner shop, which is a 5-minute walk down the road, versus jumping in your car, getting the coat on, parking up, getting your mask on, walking into Sainsbury's or Tesco or any other supermarket. Yes, it's going to be probably a third less, but you have the hassle of having to jump in the car or walk a further distance as opposed to going to spend £2 on a bottle of milk. And, you know, okay, you'll hiss and moan about it, but it's more convenient. Mm-hmm. And I think convenience, brand, building a loyal customer base and really kind of get into the core problem that your customers have. Another couple of examples, Dyson, perfect. Who else is there? I can't think. I had literally a load of companies at the front of my head just then. I'm going to read them all off like an absolute badass, but they've all gone. But Dyson is a perfect example. They identified a market. You know, your vacuum's got shit suction, ours doesn't. They sell hair straighteners at like eye-watering prices, but you can guarantee they'll sell a shitload of them because it's Dyson. Mm-hmm. Yeah, same thing.
So if the smaller businesses aren't investing in brand, and I've seen it a lot where companies have got a great product and go, our product's better than somebody else's product, so that's why it should sell. And I think this concept of products being good enough isn't really understood by a lot of smaller retailers, at least, that actually once you get past an entry point into a market, the customer doesn't always care if your product is infinitely better. And the obvious example with that is smartphones. Or just phones now. We don't call them smartphones anymore, do we? You know, like every time Apple release a whole bunch of features, Android users are like, yeah, we've had that for 3 years. You know, it doesn't matter. Apple still outsell it because it's good enough. It gets you into the market, does everything you need it to do. And yeah, okay, this feature isn't as great as that feature, but it's good enough to do what it needs to do. But you can boil that down to lots of other industries. And I think that's missed by a lot of retailers, is that they think because their product is better, that's why they're going to win in that market. And actually, that is one of the things you need to win in that market. And it's not everything you need to win in that market.
Yeah, 100%. You could probably simplify that even further with a tin of beans, right? Like, you could moan that daddies are the king of beans, but Heinz have literally been number one spot. Or even Coca-Cola versus Pepsi, two basically very similar Coke products. But, you know, Coca-Cola, you could argue, has got a better brand, or, you know, is seen as the better brand, not by taste, but just because of who Coca-Cola is, right?
So that Coke segment is one of the things that would make you give up doing anything, right? So a couple of weird things that happen in the Coke segment. You do a blind taste test. You do the Pepsi challenge, right? They made a whole campaign about this. You do blind taste tests and people prefer Pepsi over Coke. Almost all the time. It just happens, right? So Pepsi then people prefer our brand to their brand. So then they go out and they spend millions advertising. And whether they're doing Pepsi Challenge, whether they're sponsoring the World Cup, whether they're sponsoring whatever, what happens when number 2 in the market starts to advertise? Number 1 in the market goes up in market share. That's what happens in the Coke segment. Because people see those ads and go, geez, I want a Coke. But at the moment and then of purchase, they get into the shop, they get into the store and they look at the fridge and they go, oh, Coke or Pepsi? Oh, I'll have a Coke. So if you were Pepsi, you'd be just like, stuff this. Let's just give up and go home now. It doesn't matter what they do. All they do is help Coke sell more. And you're like, oh, man, that's a nightmare.
You've got to be you've got to have a real thick skin to be like marketing director at Pepsi. But equally, do they have more creative license, right? Because they're the underdog. Like the whole, I know we're kind of going way off e-commerce now, but we're in a rut, is the whole Burger King versus McDonald's campaign. You may have seen that. Where Burger King are basically telling everyone to go to McDonald's to support, people in the industry and that kind of stuff.
So Burger King have got a couple of years ago, they got a new marketing director, CMO, or whatever his title is. And they've been doing some really interesting, different, brave, crazy, pick your own word, depending on where you think they are on that spectrum. Campaigns they've had moldy Whoppers being shown to show that they don't use preservatives. They've just had a campaign out that Luke's mentioned, which is go and shop else. During lockdown, everybody needs your support. Go and shop, including at McDonald's. It seems to me, with no background knowledge of the campaign, that they are focused on sort of free media and brand salience are the two measures that they're trying to move. So they're not spending millions on they are spending a lot on ads, so they will be spending millions, but not maybe as much as they used to do. But they're trying to see how much more free media they can get by having campaigns that are socially shareable. So the Moldy Whopper went everywhere because it was such a new campaign. The McDonald's thing has been shared everywhere because it's quite an unusual campaign. So if they're measuring brand salience and how people are talking about their brand, is it positive, is it negative? That's probably, my guess is, on the way up. Are they looking at the media values of what they're getting? Yes, I'm certain they are. They're probably on the way up. I go back to, I talk about the metrics that matter. I'm yet to see the study that says they're selling more burgers because of it. Now, there might be, and there's going to be there's going to be some campaign award submissions coming out soon that will show if it's moved the dial. Now, if it has, it's a work of genius and it's the best thing they've ever done. If it doesn't, you're like, great, it's just another example of marketers focusing on the wrong metrics. Yeah. It's too early to say. I'm not for or against, but I'm interested to see, has it put more bums on seats in Burger King or more feet on walkthroughs or whatever, and has it sold more burgers? That's the key thing.
Yeah, 100%. But it's all relative. It all goes back to the same principles of, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about cutting edge e-commerce tech or a lemonade stand by a 7-year-old, sweet looking girl. The principles of marketing, and I can't believe I'm saying this, speaking to the actual legend in this particular space, but it ultimately remains unchanged. The Bible in marketing is still very much the same. And I think to use to kind of bring us back and pull us out of the rut of offline stuff, fast payments. I think everyone in the world kind of knows who the hell fast payments are. And they have built an incredible brand. They are basically the sexy version of Stripe and SagePay. They're throwing out hoodies and shit. And the fact that they're called fast, it just makes it super multifaceted. It doesn't have to be about payments anymore. You're happy to wear their stuff. No one's going to run around wearing a Stripe hoodie because it'd just be weird. You're just like an account director at a company. But everyone is happy to wear a fast hoodie because why the hell wouldn't you want to be associated with that? Perfect example of building a brand. Even before the thing was even available, people were hyping this thing up. Massive respect to those guys.
Time for another advertisement during this podcast. You can see why Luke and Luke Carthy Limited and Eximo Marketing Limited are coming together to do a little bit of a co-promotion, if you'd call it that, loosely under the header of Luke X. yeah, well, it sounded like a good idea at the time. We're aware that in Northern Ireland, there's a lot of companies who are looking to improve their e-commerce game. Some companies have taken advantage of the digital selling capability grant, the cracking title that Invest NI gave their funding scheme to help companies through COVID. If you've got that grant and you're looking at strategy help, you're looking at sorting out your e-com platform, SEO, your performance marketing, all of those bits, Luke brings absolutely impeccable e-com background to it. I just bring a lot of talking and a podcast. No, kind of general marketing stuff. But we're going to come together as a couple. We're going to be double dating, the pair of us, and we're going to bring our expertise together to help companies boost what they do online. So if you're interested, if you're selling online and you want to see how you can ramp that up, so just to be clear, we're not going to say, okay, we'll take over managing your PPC for you. That's not what we do. We're consultants. We're here to steer you in the right direction. If you've got the digital selling capability grant, we will take advantage of that, get you set up, get you going in the right way, and help you find the people who can take you forward. Luke, are you excited about working with me?
Yes, very. No, I can't wait. It's going to be really fun. Like, you're, in my opinion, this is like a wedding speech now, but you're the kind of bloke that I go to or read or I'm inspired by on just the stuff that so many companies miss out. It's just the fundamentals. Like, hold on a minute, before you even build a site, have you done X, Y, and Z? Now, before you even think of a brand name, before you even think about anything, have you at least read anything that Andi Jarvis has put out? And I think that's yeah. So to kind of work with someone who can do that really important stuff before we talk about the sexy e-com kind of digital playground, I think it gels really well. So I can't wait to get started.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant. So get the ad contact details are around somewhere on the podcast. You know where to get hold of me, right? So enough of the advert. Let's carry on. Luke, I'm going to ask you in a minute for a top tip, another top tip for businesses selling online coming up to Christmas. But before we do, let's talk about Christmas. So the UK, in various different ways, is in lockdown. The Republic of Ireland is in lockdown. So England is in lockdown, I think, until the 2nd of December. Scotland is probably going to come out earlier. Northern Ireland, 2 weeks' time. Wales, slightly different. Republic of Ireland got really, really stringent rules to help lock down on COVID. Essential retailers in many places are the only ones allowed to open. So we've got two different questions here. One, what are the opportunities here for online retailers with all this shutdown happening? And two, if you're a physical retailer that hasn't quite got yet into this space, is there anything you can do to save Christmas?
Two very good questions. I think to kind of throw a bit of shade to the lockdown, the fact that Greggs is allowed to stay open kind of just completely says how much of a shambles this thing is. But anyway,
listen, look, I lived in Newcastle, which is Greg's hometown, right? And if you try and tell Geordies that Greggs is not an essential retailer, there will be a riot. I guarantee you there will be a riot. Sorry, carry on.
I can believe it. So, do you know what? All I can think about now is sausage butty, mate. So I can't remember the question. Do you want to throw me those questions again?
So let's do them one at a time. If you haven't already opened the door to e-commerce and you're worried about losing your business because of lockdown, what can you do now to save Christmas?
All right. So first thing I want to say is get on Google and start firing queries for what you sell. Get a feel for the playground. And that won't take you very long, like half an hour to an hour tops. Second of all, if you're ready, if you're in a situation where you have a proposition to get online, just go to Shopify. I'm not even going to bother talking to you about whether you should go for WooCommerce or Shopify or Magento or BigCommerce or whatever. Just get on Shopify. It's the most widely supported. They have a really cool free trial. And as much as Shopify has its faults, SEOs typically are a bit tongue-in-cheek about it. It doesn't matter because it gives you a platform to sell and it's dirt cheap. Second of all, I think once you've done that, leverage social. So if you're not already on social media, if you don't have a social presence, if you're a butcher who's kind of lent purely on footfall, for example, classic example, start. Get your kids to do it. Get your mates' kids to do it. Like, just get them online and start spending a few quid on identifying your local audience and really trying to drum that up. The point is, if lockdown is impacting you, there's a very good chance it's going to impact everybody else in that same vertical, that same industry. So you're not the only butcher in the UK that's going to be thinking about, oh crap, how am I going to sell my meat, right? That sounded like a really bad euphemism. I'm so sorry, but you know what I mean.
Just wait until I clip that up and put it out on social media for the episode.
Dear. But yeah, like it's really, I know it's intimidating, especially if you're not in technical, but it really isn't that difficult. Like there's always kids, there's always people around, there's always people who are handy with tech who can help you out. But just get online, try something. I think, yeah, so that's my answer to the first question. Is it's not difficult. Get on Shopify, get on Google. And when I say get on Google, I don't mean necessarily advertise on Google. I just start typing for inspiration, get some ideas.
Okay. And then the other part of the question is, if you are an online retailer now, and maybe a little bit bigger, slightly bigger scale, but you're an online retailer, essential shops are being locked down. What's your play now? It's coming up. It's the golden quarter. We're in November already. What's your play for Christmas? Is it ramp everything up and really make a go for it now?
I would personally say that the best thing you can do right now is sacrifice margin for sales. I know that sounds crazy. I don't mean like sell things at a loss, but if you sell something at say 100% margin, then think about selling a higher quantity at 70-80% margin, if of course your stock is fairly liquid. So if you can get more stock in easily, if it's a digital product, if it's something that you haven't got a problem in supply chain, then go for it. The reason why I say that is because it's more than just margin. You're thinking market share, you're thinking 2021 once all the dust is settled. You're thinking building a database and getting that customer base to kind of give you that springboard for next year. And I have a client, again, similar to yourself, I won't mention them, who are doing exactly that. So they have bought a shitload of Christmas stock, to be frank. And they are a omni-channel brand. They have a high street presence. They have a online presence. But of course, because the high street is practically, cut your time off if you like, how the heck are they going to get all of that high street stock sold online? The chances are that a lot of it probably won't. It will be stuck there and it will be brought back out again in 2021. Mm-hmm. But as a result of that, they have to realize that as much as their brand says luxury and expensive and premium, if they want to survive and have cash ready for whatever the next quarter brings, they have to slash their margin and get things sold. And I'd argue that that's probably a good way to play it.
So is that a business decision, not necessarily a marketing decision, in so much as they'll be factoring in storage costs of that for the next 12 months if they need it, if they can find storage, because there's a big problem with warehousing and storage during the first lockdown. So therefore, you can sort of take the hit on the margin. Are they looking to do that on products that don't have that issue, as well as a customer recruitment tactic? Are they cutting margin so they can build the database?
Yeah, I think personally what's happened is that a business problem was brought to the board, or brought to to a boardroom or a bunch of people on a Zoom call and said, look, we've got a load of Christmas stuff that we don't think we're going to be able to clear out as we planned. What do you propose? And it was, of course, margin erosion, get it sold, build the data, get people to sign up for a discount code. It's an excuse for an extra Black Friday sale. It's an excuse for another pre-Christmas sale. So you can wrap it up in as much sexy wrapping paper and as marketing messaging as you want. But ultimately what it means is they don't want to be in a situation where they're sitting on £1 million worth of stock that they cannot sell for another 12 months. So that might be quite a specific challenge for retailers. Let's talk about, say, retailers that don't necessarily have Christmas specific stock. What is the strategy that they can use to sell during this particular period? I'd say just be clever, like use lockdown in your messaging. I don't want to say scaremongering, but if there's a problem out there in terms of accessibility, so again, in the business that I'm working in, or the business that I'm building, then lockdown's going to be huge because the Afro hair care shops will probably end up shutting down again. So there's emphasis there on being able to support that audience and to help them get what they need. So if you have an opportunity, leverage it, think about it, Google it. Again, write some content on it, add it to your FAQs page, add it to your proposition, extend your returns policy, for example, to make it easier for people to return things in the new year, post-lockdown. Think about softening some of your maybe more stringent, less customer-focused rules. So there could be a delivery threshold that you have of, say, £100. Maybe you could potentially reduce that or increase it if your AOV is increasing because people are buying in bulk. I guess what I'm trying to say to you is, again, it goes back to the basic principles of what are your customers' pain points, what are their challenges, and put that into your marketing messaging.
And to me, everything comes back to the basics there, in that The one question I would say that most customers I talk to, most of my clients, I talk to that a week on, is what's your lifetime value of the customer? And lifetime value doesn't mean from the day that customer's born till the day it's died. It's their lifetime with you. That might be a year, it might be 5 years, it could be 30, 40 years. You know, banks have lifetime values of customers that are huge. And the number of times where you just get this blank look and it, I hit the microphone, sorry folks. You get this blank look where you say, what's your lifetime value of a customer? And like, oh, what? Talked to Gil David, who's a Facebook ads consultant. It drives him insane when they have no idea. We want to spend this much to recruit a customer. Great. What are they worth? So you've got to understand the basics of the business. You've got to have those things in. What's your margin? What's your customer lifetime value? Is it worth cutting margin to bring that customer in because next year you're going to sell them another 4 things? Of course. Yeah, do it. But you've got to be really across that and not just across the we spend this much on Google or we spend this much on Facebook, which seems to be the level that most companies go to instead of drilling down a bit further.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Black Friday, right? So we've got Black Friday coming up at the end of November. I still, I'm getting old, right? I'm still irritated that Black Friday shouldn't be a thing in the UK because it has a reason for being in America. It's not here. I've just lost that battle, so let's forget about it.
Yeah, definitely, mate. It's gone.
This show comes out on the 10th of November, so there's a couple of weeks before Black Friday. Can you give us another TOPTIP about Black Friday sales and what companies should be doing with a couple of weeks to go?
Yeah, so if anyone like the 7 people that I know read my blog posts, if anyone else reads my blog posts, then there's one thing I always preach, whether it's in a previous life where I used to be able to stand on a stage and talk to people, or again, writing online. Can you just make sure, like retailers for real now, pay attention. Like if the rest of it's just been in the background, okay, you're kind of cooking in the kitchen or you're doing work or whatever it is you're doing, just stop for a second and pay attention. Please make sure that your Black Friday campaign URL is consistent, like every single year. So I don't want to see no Black Friday 2020, all right? I don't want to see no last year's Black Friday 2019 being 404 and not redirected, right? Just make it /Black Friday or whatever, or Black Friday /Cyber Monday. So you can be even better, you can use a URL that carries you all the way through the weekend. The reason why this is so important is because you want to recycle all the hard work that you've done for every single Black Friday. So if you're a huge spotlight retailer like Currys, the kind of big typical electronic brands and stuff like that that are really going to be, the first choices people go to for Black Friday, keep the URLs the same, because it just means you're going to instantly rank really high this time next year. Equally, I'd also argue to keep that page live all year round. Just because Black Friday isn't on between December and October doesn't mean that page doesn't have a life. Absolutely use it for Easter eggs. Like there's no reason why someone can't go to the Black Friday page in February and say, look, nice try, but how about a 10% discount code? Or how about free delivery? And use it, right? Like don't just kill it because it's not Black Friday anymore. So that's my biggest bit of advice, because so many brands, big and small, get it wrong.
Which that also leads into probably the first time we met was when you talked about discontinued products and SEO for that. So we're going to get the theme tune out for the 3rd time, and you can give us your TOPTIP on discontinued products.
All right, brilliant. You really need to get that edited, mate, and like put like a drum and bass beat behind it. But I would say, yeah, discontinued products. So Black Friday, as we know, let's not pretend that no one knows this. It's getting rid of your old crap in it. It's getting rid of stuff that's sitting in the warehouse, collecting dust. It's been banged about a bit, and you want to sell it. So when a product is discontinued, most retailers will kill it. They'll just, turn the product off, and you get a nasty 404. And at the opposite end of it, you've got a bit of a jarring user experience for your potential customers. So my advice here, and it's going to take a bit of time to explain. So what I'll do is I'll say, just Google Luke Carthy discontinued products, and there's some more stuff and detailed information there.
Put a link in the show notes as well.
Nice one, thank you. Is keep them live. Now, what I don't mean, normally when SEOs hear keep it live, what they immediately think I mean is keep it live and keep it indexed. No. Keep it live for a set amount of time. That could be 6 months, it could be 12 months, it could be longer or shorter, depending on your customer demand and your product life cycle. But after a certain amount of time, keep it live, but take it out of the Google index or other search engine indexes. So if people want to go and find instructions for it, if people click it in last year's Black Friday email, if there's some links because it's been featured in 2019's or 2020's Black Friday campaign, you can still soak up all of that juice and then use product recommendations and really slick user experience to say, hey, this 50-inch TV at 99 pence is no longer available. Go and buy this 55-inch at £1.50 this year. And it's that kind of experience that your customers want. They don't want to see 404s, but more importantly, what they don't want to see is 301s. They don't want to be expecting a JVC 50-inch TV at $299, but being redirected to a JVC 52-inch TV at $799. But that's I know from a marketing perspective that kind of makes sense, and there's someone in an SEO team who thinks that's like a really good idea, but it's not, and you know it's not as a consumer. So don't do it. Rant over.
Listen, I love a rant. That's what the whole podcast was born out of, my desire to rant about things. So yeah, I'm all for rants.
Brilliant.
Growth in Black Friday. I saw somebody was doing a webinar called "Is Black Friday Over?" Now, I didn't bother clicking in because I just assumed it was a clickbaity title to get people to sign up, and the answer was going to be no. But what's your view on that? I think Black Friday has got masses of growth yet. I think we're at the bottom of that curve. What's your view on it?
I think we're a little bit different here, because I actually think that Black Friday has been stretched too far. And I think it's got to the point where people are just doing what they want with it now. So you've kind of got Amazon doing it. I know Amazon again, shit the bed, but they're doing they've just basically put the middle finger up to everybody and just launched it 2 weeks before everybody else. They did Amazon Prime Day or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. But then you've got people doing Black Friday months and just kind of stretching the whole thing out, where it goes beyond that hyper quick, get it while it's hot, 24-hour window or weekend. So I think there's loads of life left in it, but equally, I think brands just need to absolutely behave themselves and start making an extravaganza for a month.
So one of the bigger brands I've worked with, and again, probably can't mention them, but they are a major e-commerce retailer. And when I say worked with, I've done a tiny bit with them. I'm not going to pretend I'm their go-to e-commerce consultant. I'm not. I've done a tiny bit with them, tiny bit. But they run Black Friday over at least 2 weeks, and then have the wash up. They don't really call it Cyber Monday anymore. It's just the Black Friday deal season, which is about 3 weeks long. But that whole, it was done basically out of the pausing spending. So in the early years of Black Friday, what a lot of retailers noticed was that 2 weeks ahead of Black Friday, maybe even 3 weeks, that spending started to dip quite significantly because people were saving the firepower for the deals coming on the day. And when you've got physical retail, you sort of hold on because you want the queues. I don't know if you remember the TV pictures of people fighting over TVs and queuing to get in stores and stuff like that, which was actually, while it looked really daft and looked shit, it was actually good for the brands. And then the next year they all had security on and nobody turned up because they'd actually realized there was this window, this pull forward window where they could sell Black Friday deals. Now, still the best deals come on Black Friday itself. But actually, it was just a way of, like you said, getting rid of other stock and getting people to spend in that 2 week window. How far do you take that? Who knows? And I think, depends on stock levels and what else is happening. I think this pandemic year could be quite different in that the market's changed. If essential retailers are shut, do you need to offer such a discount? Do you just say, actually, we can hold some prices? But what if so? But you've still got to look at the competitive set of other retailers. So it's a really difficult decision, I think, for retailers at quite late notice, because Black Friday campaigns are going to be starting. Well, some of them have started. I've had the early emails through. Yeah,
it's a trick. I'd love to see the balls, the man or woman who makes the decision to think, do you know what? We don't need to drop our prices. Let's just hold our nerve and keep it at $99.99. I think for me, I'd like to see someone be really creative in the space. So just throw down a really random idea. How about this is another top tip if you want to go and jingle.
TOPTIP.
Okay, nice.
Love it. Hold on, I'll give you it again. Are you ready? TOPTIP.
It's the click at the end. That's what gets me every time. Wow. Okay. Well, where was it going? So how about a VIP club where you have protected stocks? I think that would be awesome, because one of the biggest things that you have with Black Friday is oh shit, I need to be really fast because there's only like a couple thousand of these left and they'll fly off the shelves. But if you allow customers to sign up to a free, maybe you could even potentially charge for it, almost like ring fence club. I think they call it on QVC, they call it queue cut, which is kind of like jumping the queues and just getting to the front of the line. Where you can kind of feel that once Black Friday is over and all their kind of normal people stock has gone, then you, the super exclusive plan, can get access to this kind of special list. So the benefit of that is, one, you're kind of mitigating one of the key problems of Black Friday, which is availability and scarcity. Mm-hmm. But secondly, you've collected a shit ton of data. And then you can stretch Black Friday beyond into payday and that kind of thing. So I'd like to see someone be really clever and creative rather than just kind of the cliche, let's just make it a Black Friday month and let's just, rinse the heck out of it.
Throw more stuff out of it. You mentioned QVC there.
Yeah.
When you first get into selling stuff online, you may not consider QVC as an outlet for you, especially if you're a product manufacturer. You might not consider QVC for your retail. You are making a massive mistake, right? If you don't use QVC. Tell us about it. I mean, when I first found out, I remember I drove home from the office about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even a bit more now. I just remember driving home from the office with just this weird look on my face going, QV? No, I'm not having it. Went home and watched QVC for the night and then was just mind blown by the scale and the scope of it. And the company I was working with at the time, they sold a fortune via QVC. It was amazing for them. Tell us about it.
QVC just takes me back to my childhood days. Just sitting there moaning because my mum wants to buy this today's special value bullshit that we've got advertised on the TV at that time. But yeah, so hold tight, anyone born in the 80s, because you'll know that channel well probably. Now it's on Freeview, so everyone gets it. You don't feel exclusive anymore. But QVC is a behemoth. You basically get someone bigging up your product on a studio set for about half an hour to an hour, depending on how badass you are. And yeah, it's awesome. It's kind of like eBay, but with people selling your stuff rather than listings. But equally, they have a website and you can go and buy stuff as well. But yeah, it kind of, I feel it was at the epicenter of this explosion of teleshopping. I don't know if that's the right terminology for it, where now you can go and buy your Vax cordless vacuum that you see on the cartoon channels all the time. Where you kind of, you buy your cordless vacuum at £149, 50 quid cheaper than you get it in retail. But I genuinely think something like that has some legs. And even just saying QVC now, didn't even think about that as a sales channel. So maybe we should just give Amazon the middle finger and everyone should just sell their stuff on QVC.
The couple of retailers I've worked with, manufacturers who are also retailing their own product, who've worked with QVC, I cannot speak highly enough about it. Look, let's be honest, but QVC take a massive commission for what they do, right? They're a monster of an operation. But you do serious volumes, and particular products in particular segments do well. They have quite a particular demographic on QVC. I think QVC, you can probably get all the stats from an advertiser's pack on their site. I think I'm right in saying it skews heavily female, a slightly older audience, often a lot of retired people. If you talk to your nan's probably bought something from QVC. Just go and ask your nan, she will have done.
Yeah.
And so it's weird, but it sells stacks of products. So do check that out. The other thing I want to talk about, which may not be in your experience, I just want to shout out because there's so many people you talk to don't know about this. So the show comes out on the 10th of November. The biggest e-commerce event in the world is happening the day after this show comes out. And you talk to people here in the UK, in Ireland, in Europe, whatever, and you go, what's the biggest e-commerce event in the world? And they all go, oh, Black Friday. And you look at them and go, nope. You know what the biggest e-commerce event in the world is, Luke?
I'm Googling like an absolute bastard because I want you to edit this bit out and for me to just seem like an absolute badass. Tell me, and then I'll tell you.
Singles Day.
Oh shit! Yeah,
Alibaba Singles Day, which is 11th of November, or Double One, as they sometimes call it in, or Double 11, sorry, as they sometimes call it in China. 1111. It's a day where single people are celebrated. It's now become like the biggest day for weddings in China ever, but it's almost like people getting married on Valentine's Day. In China, you get married on Singles Day is a big thing. But Alibaba made it a huge e-commerce event, Singles Day deals. It's like Black Friday on steroids. I think last time I checked the figures, it was something like 2 or 3 times bigger than the global sales for Black Friday happened in China on Singles Day. It is just immense in scope and scale. Now, to many retailers, people listening to this, it's probably not got, it's like, oh, Singles Day, great. It's not really a thing here for sales. And unless you're selling into China, it's probably not something to worry about too much. But what I would say is just keep an eye on those sorts of events, because if something's that big, I guarantee you somebody, I mean, it's the reason Amazon launched Amazon Prime Day, because Singles Day, which is Alibaba's thing, they was like, oh, we can do this ourselves and launch it. If it's such a big sales event and in such a big market, somebody will be looking at that going, how can we make this work here? Now, it might not. It might be too close to Black Friday to be a thing, but keep an eye on it, because these things will suddenly take legs and traction and run. If somebody had said to you 15 years ago, Black Friday is going to be a massive thing in the UK, it's the American day after Thanksgiving and and you'd be looking at them going,
what are you on about, man?
Well, yeah. No, what are you talking about? It's rubbish. It's a shit. It's never going to happen here. We're not Americans. We're Brits. Roll forward 15 years. It's the biggest day of sales in e-com land by miles. So just keep an eye on those things that are happening, and especially things in China that probably don't get the media coverage here. Sorry for
How do you handle your own top tips, mate? Do you have to jingle yourself or what?
I probably could do. Hold on. Let's do TOPTIP. Keep an eye out for what goes on in China with Singles Day. It could be coming to the UK soon. You like that?
I think I need to record you one that you can use if you give me a top tip.
Can you? This is quite a big moment for me, Luke, because I've never let anyone else do the top tip jingle. Do you want to? It's TOPTIP, but you got to go I. It's got to go on the I. Okay.
Okay.
Go for it.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. TOPTIP.
Yes, and we got the click as well. Singles Day coming up 11th of September. Keep an eye out for these big e-commerce moments, especially if you sell into the Chinese market or you have a lot of Chinese customers. We could probably do a whole other podcast on selling to Chinese customers and to China. We touched on it a little bit in the exclusive product edition with Ashley from Google, where we talked about the Chinese market there. So it's a bit of a different segment. The way Chinese customers like to pay, delivery options and things like that are different. But do keep an eye on those sorts of things that happen in other countries, because they might land here and get traction pretty damn quickly. Right, coming round to the last lap, Luke, before we need to wrap up. What are the couple of big mistakes you see companies making that they should stop doing right now? You've talked about stopping doing discontinued products. You've talked about not having the Black Friday with a year page. What other mistakes are retailers making when it comes to selling online?
Neglecting site search. Like the stats on this is unbelievable. And every time, I've kind of made a bit of a career out of running around and slagging off big retailers for the mistakes they've made. I've got into hot water a few times with Argos. Actually, live when you were there at Search Love a couple of years back now, I think. And Argos were in the audience and they weren't happy. But the point was, I'm not being inappropriate. I'm not just picking on people because I don't like them. It's a glaringly obvious marketing mistake they've made, and I'm shedding some light on it. So, Homebase was my most recent victim, I think, last year. I haven't really found one this year. Currys, actually. When you search for Black Friday specifically on this search bar, I don't know if this is mobile centric, but if you search for it, you get redirected to a silver fridge freezer. You can't make this shit up, honestly. And then they're wondering why they've got 6,500 people looking at a single really cheap fridge freezer on Currys. I've got a feeling it's not because everybody wants to buy a fridge that's silver and under £200. It's just probably because people are searching for Black Friday with sensible fridge.
Well, Dan, the customer communications and brand director was episode 2. So I might message that. I might take this clip and send it to Dan and go, what's going on, Dan?
Yeah, I've got the footage as well if he wants it, because they may have fixed it. It may have just been a weird bug someone was messing around with in DevOps, but yeah, it was a weird one. But I think overall, neglecting site search, misspellings, people searching for non-commerce queries. So everyone just assumes in e-commerce that when someone uses site search, they want to buy something, although that's largely true. People might want help, whether it's returns policy, whether it's coronavirus is like a big deal right now, as we know. But, not coronavirus in terms of products you sell, but how you're dealing with it, whether you're still operating, whether anything's changed. So just really kind of tuning into what your customers are searching for and whether you're serving them the best results or any results at all. Just to give a really quick example, I'd love to kind of name the brand for context, but again, I can't. But where I used to work before I went solo is the number one brand that they sold, which was actually their own brand. If you search for that brand name, you got no results found. And that was like my first week of working there. And the MD just kind of went bright red and just kind of, he wasn't too happy about it. But that's my point. It's like site search, people convert like 3. I think there's some numbers on eConsultancy on the CXL blog. So you'll have to go and check those out. So don't quote me, but the numbers in terms of how much more people convert when they use site search compared to people that don't is staggering. And the point is it gets so neglected. So that would be my next bit of advice is, own it.
Good stuff. What about then, we have a few sort of students, grads, younger marketers here. What advice would you give them to get into the world of e-commerce if they can? And we take book recommendations from every guest on the show as well. So do you have any books? Doesn't have to necessarily be about e-commerce, just for your book recommendations. So advice for younger marketers at the minute, and what books would you recommend for people to read about marketing e-commerce?
All right, so young marketers, the first thing I'm going to say is get your hands on in the field tools, because I am frankly fed up to the back teeth. Not everyone, but a lot of people know how I feel about higher education in the world of marketing and just how empty it is. So if you're just you've got a degree, a master's, an honours, a bachelor's, or whatever you want to call it, in marketing or in digital, and then you sit with a laptop on the first day and it's like, right, so what do I do now? Like the in-field tools never get spoken about. So go and take a Google Analytics course. Go and play around with SEMrush and Ahrefs and the real in-the-field tools that you'd use in your respective space. If you've got to go into email, go and have a play with Klaviyo and MailChimp, because these things aren't taught. And that's really annoying because you have all the theory, but you have no idea what to do on the first day of the job. And that will really help you get forward. So just look at that stuff. In terms of books, again, on the same kind of plug, Blue Array's in-house SEO book is really, really good because it's real world, in-house mistakes, epiphanies, under the rug discoveries, if you like, that come around the workplace in an SEO capacity.
Did they interview you for that book as well, though?
No comment. Yeah. But there's also some really other good people that is not me. Like, don't look at my shit because I've pretty much spoken about all of it today. But there's just a lot of, and equally, then you can go and follow those people on Twitter and start your nest egg of people to go and thrive off or research from or whatever. But yeah, just to kind of comment it again, if you are at uni studying, I promise you the best thing you can do to come out with a degree is great, but also get your hands on the actual tools, because the amount of postgrads that I speak to and say, have you ever used Google Analytics? And they're like, what's that? And I'm like, dude, you ain't gonna get the job. I don't care if you got a master's. If you can't play around with basic tools in the market space, you're no good to me. And I know that sounds really candid and frank, but it's the reality.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, listen, just before we wrap up, I just want to give another plug to the fact that Luke and I are working together. If you are an e-commerce business looking to grow and go to the next level, or if you're just looking to go from how do we do this to getting online and starting to move, Luke and I are partnering up under the header Luke X. There'll be something on the website fairly soon about that. And we're going to work together. So strategy, get the basics right, understand your customers, why they want to buy from you, get those, are you using the right CRM, all that stuff. And then how do you actually take this forward? How do you avoid making the stupid mistakes, not having a site search on? Please don't do that. All of those bits. So if you want to get some help in that, get your business selling more online, making more money. We're not just going to tell you to cut margin all the time, although it's certainly one of the options. If you do want to get in touch, I'm at Andi Jarvis on Twitter, Andi with an I, and the links to where you'll find both myself and Luke are in the show notes to the podcast. Luke, thank you for your time, mate.
It's been fun, mate. It's been brilliant. You know what? In the world of lockdown, this is as close as we can get to a beer right now. And no, it really helps just to have a proper good conversation with someone. So no, I appreciate it, mate. Thanks for having me.
And listen, let's just do it together. Just to finish the show off for everybody, we're going to do the top tip theme tune together. I'm going to count you in. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. TOPTIP. At least we got the click at the same time anyway. Right, Luke, Thank you very much. And we'll see everybody again in 2 weeks' time for the next episode. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.